we're going against societal conditioning where we have to kind of give roses and diamond rings and all these things. And you do outline those stories where the traps you fell into. You do talk about them in the book, which is super, super interesting. It's interesting what you just said there about your sister basically introducing you in many ways to your wife. And something I've been thinking about recently in preparation for this conversation is, obviously, we've both got Indian families as our background, right? Both of us, I think, were born and brought up in the UK, but our families are
London,
from India. Yeah. And it's interesting, I don't know how your parents got together, but my parents had a full-on arranged marriage. You know, my dad was working in the UK. He'd emigrated here. He'd been here for about 10 years. And he basically took his annual leave. His family had arranged for him to get married. He literally flew home to India for, I don't know, a week. He met my mum, I think, on the Saturday for just a cup of tea. And on the Sunday, they got married. And then a few days later, dad flies back home to work. And about 3 months later, my mum comes over and, you know, they set up life together. Now, what's really interesting as a kid growing up, as an immigrant kid, struggling with identity, trying to fit in with, you know, your English friends around you, I think I was a little embarrassed once I realized that mum and dad had never met. I'm like, oh, that's just not cool. You know, people need to meet and fall in love and have romance and, you know, the things you see on TV and in films. But as I get older and as I reflect, and I'm not saying mum and dad's marriage was perfect by any stretch. You know, I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. I'm not trying to put it on a pedestal. But what I am saying is there are many different ways. I think this really speaks to a lot of the messages in your book, Jay. There's many different ways to love. There's not just one way that we get to experience love. And as you just said, your sister introduced you to the lady who now is your wife.
Yeah.
And we think about it's either a love marriage or an arranged marriage. But actually for many years, even in Britain, you know, families have put dinners on and introduced, oh, you know, I think you'll really get on with that family's daughter. It's the right age. It's always happened somewhere along the way. We've kind of lost all that and thought we're just gonna randomly meet someone in a bar that we've never met before, go on a date, and suddenly it's gonna all mash up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a study, I think it was from maybe 30 years ago. No, up until 30 years ago, I think the research shows that you are likely to meet someone that you spent your life with within 5 miles radius of your home. That's how close to home it was. Now, that's not a good or bad thing, exactly like what you're saying. I'm not saying, oh, things were better in the past and everything's going. I'm not someone who's painting that picture either. But I do think you're spot on that I don't think we're open. I know clients who've met because they care about the same charity. I have friends that have met because they both love cycling. I've had friends that have got together because someone introduced them. And I think when we limit it to say, well, I'm just going to hope I bump into someone, or I'm going to go on the apps casually and see if I find someone, I think the casual approach to love doesn't work because it's a game of odds. You've got to meet a lot of people to figure it out. And I think today the problem is with the paradox of choice that we both know about and we talk about, this idea that now there's just plenty of fish in the sea and you actually know that, oh my gosh, yeah, I mean, anyone who's on this app, there's just so many more options. And what I've realized is that love isn't about finding the right person. It's about finding the person that you want to make it right with. And I think love is so much more about a choice of are we energized and enthusiastic to figure this out versus I'm going to find someone who perfectly matches and fits. And so I think now we're looking for this perfect match, this perfect fit, this perfect connection. And that alienates us because every time we meet, it's slightly wonky, it's slightly doesn't fit, there's a slight issue, and we're like, oh no, there will be someone who is all 10 of the things. And I'm like, well, I don't think there is. I think what there is you know what, we have enough energy, excitement, and enthusiasm for each other that we're going to figure it out every single day. And we're going to bring that energy every single day. And so I think that that's what's eluding us to the challenges that we face in trying to meet someone.